This is a segment of the up-and-coming The Whole Chessboard video. I hope you enjoy. For this people's heart is waxed gross, and their ears are dull of hearing, and their eyes they have closed, lest at any time they should see with their eyes and hear with their ears, and should understand with their heart, and should be converted, and I should heal them. You must study the topics presented and not just use this as infotainment, because if you can't see the path, you can't stay on the path. And we are surrounded by deceptions and distractions by design. Stop focusing on the things that shine a false light and the false promises. Stay on target. Familiarity with money or securities and how they are created is one of the utmost important foundations if you want to understand Freemason ancient bloodline control. So first, let's start with definitions. You need to understand these definitions if you want to have a basic grasp of what those in government and corporations with government contracts are doing. Appropriation represents the legislative authority of a government for the expenditure of a designated amount for a specific purpose of either an operating, capital, financing, or investing nature, to set apart or assign to a particular recipient, purpose, or use the legislature appropriating funds for a program. Look at your country's yearly budget act for fine examples of appropriation. Appropriation is the term for creating a tax credit through statute or laws. A simple definition of a security is any proof of ownership or debt that has been assigned a value and may be sold. For the holder, a security represents an investment as an owner, creditor, or rights to ownership on which the person hopes to gain profit. For example, a family court judgment is a security for the creditor because it is evidence of a debt. Expenditure means government spending or debt created by public policy. Public policy is also known as laws, acts, or bylaws. This is government finance. Your family court judgment is also an expenditure because it uses government law to assign a debtor. This is payment made by one party to another in exchange for the transfer of something of value. It might be of value to both parties entering into a transaction. Basically, for this purpose, you can think of consideration as something in which the government has placed value on and is registered within your country, whichever jurisdiction you're in. If an applying value can't be registered with the government, it isn't considered valuable to them. This is a court order made from laws, that is the decision in a lawsuit. If a judgment is entered against you, a debt collector will have stronger tools like garnishment to collect the debt. A judgment is an official result of a lawsuit in court. Tax credits are securities that reduce your government-assigned expenditures. The more tax credits that apply to you, the more you can reduce your registered expenditures with the government. The federal, provincial, and territorial governments each provide tax credits through the appropriation of laws, which you can apply to your expenditures. A guarantor of payment or performance if another fails to pay or perform, such as a bonding company which posts a bond for a guardian, an administrator, or a building contractor. Most surety agreements require that a person looking to the surety must first attempt to collect or obtain performance from the responsible person or entity, or a guarantor of another's obligation. These definitions will help you see the accounting of government, and when you look at a contract, look for where these definitions are applied. Now let's put this in practice. You get pulled over for speeding. The officer gives you a speeding ticket with a fine amount of $100 and a statute tied to the fine. The ticket is called a summons, and with it, you have been summoned to court. In court, you are found guilty. Through participation, you have contracted with this court, and this court is a co-surety to the contract. The summons becomes a contract or judgment and a debt you owe, called an expenditure. It is created through statute. You go to the clerk to give them your money. These funds are the consideration. The payment is accepted, and the government uses the contract with the statute to appropriate 100 tax credits. These tax credits go towards other expenditures created by government. The government took your funds and created another 100 securities, giving them 200 securities in total. Any statute that involves an expenditure is an appropriation statute. A family law judgment has multiple appropriating statutes on it. Imagine a judgment like a family law judgment that manufactures a debt stating that you owe $1,000 a month. It is a $1,000 monthly fine for having children. The government takes that $1,000 and applies it to each appropriating statute, creating up to 5,000 tax credits. Family law is more than just destroying families and debilitating countries. It is about getting those who hold the contracts in government wealth and power. Laws, or acts and statutes, are tied to this fiat system. This system is tied to you, as all statutes are only laws if you consent to be governed. If you are part of any business that accepts government funds, you are being paid with refundable tax credits. If your school or university wants a grant, they'll have to apply or ask permission. There is a statute used in the process. It is the same process for the local firehouse, police station, road construction, waterworks, courts, NASA, NSA, FBI, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, airports, ferries, hospitals. Every place that has a government contract in place receives refundable tax credits as securities that convert into currency. So if your business or corporation isn't operating the way those who hold the pen want you to operate, you won't get that grant. It's pretty hard to find the truth if your pen holders, who belong to a party that has their own goals in mind, refuse to sign off so you can acquire the needed funds. When you understand how the system works, you can understand that you can create your own contract and have hundreds or thousands of taxpayers sign a petition allowing their tax money to appropriate your grant for your project. It's actually quite easy until you approach your representative. The public, who are supposedly in charge of the government, can't fund their own research, waterworks projects, school system, and I think you get the idea. It's all a sham. It's a shell game. But why is this happening? Let's take a deeper dive.